Good evening, everyone. My name is Faustina Checa. I'm the director of the Hitchcock Institute for Studies in American Music. We're grateful to once again partner with the Office of Public Programs at the Graduate Center to bring to you Deep Dive. The Hitchcock Institute has been part of CUNY for over 50 years, and we remain committed to celebrating and diversifying the study of American music through public-facing scholarship and events. It's truly a pleasure to welcome you to the second installment of our Deep Dive series. We inaugurated this series last year with a deep dive on Bad Bunny, which brought a record audience to this very hall. That event affirmed for us the importance and the desire for spaces like this, spaces not just to talk about music, but to listen together, carefully and collectively. We can't really understate the importance of listening, especially in the increasingly divisive world that we inhabit today. So I want to begin by thanking you all for being here. Your presence, whether in person or online, speaks to the enduring resonance of D'Angelo and our shared interest to use listening to connect to others and learn from them. There is something about D'Angelo's music that resists immediacy. It asks something of us, to slow down and to sit down with sound, to attune our ears to texture, groove, and to find satisfaction in nuance. A kind of intimate listening that today we dare to make collective. We use this space to honor D'Angelo, who passed away 6 months ago in October of last year, reminding ourselves, as Daphne Brooks so beautifully argues in her writing, that bodies are archives that tell histories, and that listening is a radical practice that helps us attune to much of what certain narratives of the past marginalized, obscured, or rendered inaudible. Our hope is that our esteemed guests tonight, that I will introduce in a minute, can help us attune to D'Angelo in ways that enshrine those deep histories of Black musical practice, and that may push us towards new ways of feeling and understanding how time, embodiment, experience, vulnerability, sensuality, and political consciousness are always intertwined within the sonic. That is what this series is about creating a space that we can listen to artists whose work has shaped not only our musical landscapes, but also our ways of being together. I want to take a moment to thank the many people that made this event possible. Thank you to the Office of Public Programs at the Graduate Center and Elevash Global Voices Fund for their support. Special thanks to Karen Sander for helping us shape and realize this event, to Chad Gosley, Ryan Johnson, and Jimmy Koch for technical support. Thank you, Kelsey Milian, High Sam's Graduate Fellow last semester, who suggested our second deep dive should commemorate D'Angelo. Thank you, Maurice Restrepo, High Sam's Graduate Fellow this semester, who will moderate our discussion tonight with enviable charisma and insightfulness. To everyone who helped us spread the word about this event, and to the many undergraduate students from Lehman College and other CUNY campuses joining us tonight via live stream. I know from my colleagues that the YouTube video of our last deep dive has turned into a wonderful teaching resource, and I want to assure you all that this event will also resist ephemerality and be uploaded to the internet. And I also want to extend my deepest gratitude to High Sam's board and our donors, and some of whom are here with us tonight. Your guidance and ongoing support are what allows us to sustain this work and continue building programming like this. Lastly, I want to thank our wonderful guests. Briefly, I will introduce them briefly so that we can move into the conversation. I'm truly honored to welcome Daphne Brooks, William R. Kennan Jr., Professor of African American Studies, Women, Gender, and Sexuality Studies, and Music at Yale University, whose groundbreaking scholarship has shaped how we understand Black performance, sound, and the politics of listening. Most recently, Daphne published the monograph Liner Notes for the Revolution, The Intellectual Life of Black Feminist Sound, and edited Black Star Rising, The Purple Rain, The Sonic Afterlives of David Bowie and Prince, that just came out on Duke University Press. Thank you, Daphne. And I also want to thank Keyon Harrold, an extraordinary musician and Grammy-winning trumpeter with a large list of outstanding collaborations with legends that span from Keith Richards to Diana Ross to Jay-Z, Beyonce, Rihanna, Mac Miller, and who had the honor of working with D'Angelo himself. Keyon's most recent album, Foreverland, is acclaimed in its compositional intricacies and stylistic innovations. You should all go see him perform at Carnegie Hall next May 16 for Miles Davis Centennial Celebration. Thank you, Keyon. Thank you all of you in person and online, once more for joining us. I hope this event helps you listen in new ways. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. I don't know about enviable charisma, but I'll take it. Thank you guys both for being here. It's a pleasure to be on stage with you. And I'm delighted to be here tonight to moderate this important discussion about the music of the great D'Angelo, a musician who, as a songwriter, performer, synthesized a remarkable array of Black American musical styles: gospel, R&B, soul, hip-hop, rock and roll, among others. In his music, you can hear the influence and presence of legendary musicians like Sam Cooke, Smokey Robinson, Al Green, the Hawkins family, James Brown, Marvin Gaye. I could probably do this for half an hour. Many, many, many more, and then many more who he influenced and came after. I want to start with a brief question for the two of you before we jump into his music. But if you can tell us how D'Angelo entered your life, both as a listener and as a professional, and then for those of us, for those in the audience or online who perhaps are not as well acquainted with his music, what is, in a very concise way, so important about D'Angelo? Why is he still so influential? Whichever of the two of you wants to start.
I mean, the way I was introduced to D'Angelo, it's about 18 years old, and I moved to New York from St. Louis to become a jazz musician, like a jazz purist. And, the first gig that I ended up getting came about from all of the work that was happening at Electric Lady Studio, which was Common, which was D'Angelo, which was Erykah Badu and The Roots, and Jay Dilla, and everybody was there. I was going to the New School, which is right up the street. So from that, I started to hear about these jam sessions with The Roots. I started to hear about different things, and I had to basically broaden my horizon and not just be playing my 2-5-1 jazz licks and actually, check out the vibe and check out the soul. So from that, I was introduced to D'Angelo's artistry. Obviously, I'm a trumpet player, so Roy Hargrove is one of my heroes and mentors. Yeah. So he was one of the, fine ingredients in all of that incredible production at that time. So that's how I got caught up with D'Angelo. And from that, a dream of mine was to work with D'Angelo. So that's how I got involved.
Beautiful, and came to fruition.
Yeah, yeah.
Daphne?
I mean, you're 25, 26, you're in graduate school, thinking about trying to imagine what the future is like. But also, to get really personal, I'm the youngest in a much older family. I was the menopause baby. I'll say, my parents weren't expecting me. And I had much older siblings, one 10 years older than me, one 17 years older than me. My parents took their time. It was a house filled with music, and it was transgenerational sounds. And, by the time I was 25, 26, I was deeply curious about the history of my parents, but also the history of my older siblings. And I'd always been listening to and carrying Stevie and Marvin, et cetera, keep going, Earth, Wind, and Fire, everybody with me, even as I was trying to figure out who I was as African-American, Gen Xer. And there was this music that I never knew that I needed that could sum up both the moment that was mine and also all of the moments that led up to what became mine. And I was just, hit like everyone else with the force of not just the nostalgia of the music, but its immediacy and the fact that it felt both uncanny but also incredibly present and also futuristic. And it was deeply transformative.
Beautiful. Well, should we dive into the music? You guys want to hear something, right? All right, we're going to start with a track from Brown Sugar, 1995, D'Angelo's debut album. You want to introduce him?
I do. I also, because my parents, may they rest, raised me well, I have to thank Agustina Chica, Maurice, Karen Sander, the entire community of CUNY. Keyon, it's such an honor and a privilege to be here with you. Shout out to my man Chad, the tech AV person who keeps us going, right? You know, and I can't think of anywhere else I'd want to be on a spring evening in New York City, sharing the stage here and listening in the round to D'Angelo. He's an artist that I've referred to elsewhere and often as the architect of Black Gen X sonic feeling. So as I was kind of alluding to earlier, if you were born and raised during the densely ambivalent era, which we've come to refer to as the long post-civil rights period, that era in which, among other things, the 1970s digested and marked major 1960s legislative wins in the Black freedom struggle through a kind of shifting cultural grammar that centered, as we all know, Black beauty and Black social and political agency and Black visibility and Black vernacular aesthetics, and recognized all of these aforementioned categories as both precious and communally intimate, as well as some kind of explicitly articulated value that we were expressing to each other, that we received from the dominant class. Like this was our culture that was now being valued at the center of dominant culture in complicated ways. But if you grew up singing in folk choirs led by a music teacher who looked like Alfonso Ribeiro from Fresh Prince, dressing you in dashikis and teaching you Odetta songs, spending evenings in your public school educator parents' suburban California home on a block that they integrated, hearing your brother playing Richard Pryor records, your sister throwing on Stevie and Roberta and EWF while your parents made a place for roots at the center of the coffee table, and waited for the next installment of the primetime adaptation clapback to America's bicentennial celebrations. If you were told that the world was yours, that you could be just like Shirley Chisholm, but got chills watching angry white moms on the evening news, protesting busing programs meant for kids just like you, then you know what it felt like to receive a sound in, say, 1993, when Michelle Ndegeocello released her scorching, deep bass, brooding, unapologetically funky debut album, Plantation Lullabies, or what it felt like in 1995 when D'Angelo's Brown Sugar album dropped. You didn't even know that you needed this sound until you heard it the first time. You'd been moving through the 80s still hearing that anything was possible while racial retrenchment policies were telling you otherwise, while crossover superstars Michael, Whitney, Lionel moved further and further upwards into the pop stratosphere and towards a sonic lexicon that grabbed the masses but also softened the edges of that Soul Train line soundtrack that wallpapered your childhood. There was one beautiful weirdo from wintry Minnesota who whispered something else entirely to you. And so you rode with him through the decade of greed, the explosion of hip hop, the slickly delightful Running Man joy of New Jack Swing, thinking this is the culmination of late 20th century Black music, until the mid-1990s arrived. So until a Richmond, Virginia-born Pentecostal PK, a preacher's son, a pianistic prodigy with a knack for silky balladeering dropped an album that rekindled memories of what being young and culturally alive and safely ensconced in a sound that loved you back, saw your Blackness and with it its worlding properties and translated it into a musical universe, a talking book, a Move On Up, Come to My Garden, First Time I Ever Saw Your Face, One Nation Under a Groove, thing of beauty that's rooted in unstoppable life-giving sociality. And so we have to remember that D'Angelo burst onto the scene with that debut album and effectively reordered our musical palette, awakened memories of our parents' living rooms where the stereo was always queued up to Stevie and Marvin and Smokey and company. Here was D'Angelo, nay Michael Eugene Archer, carrying all of that generational history, cornrow adorned, refusing to leave the block, inviting us back to the block into the house party where genius, longtime Bay Area legendary musician in his own right, Raphael Sadiq, would accompany him and embark on this career-long journey with him to fold together those Bootsy and Larry Graham bass lines with what 70s soul crooning and 80s R&B Romeo serenades had taught him. And so now we have this first clip to play.
Pack up here tonight, buddy. You know my shorty up in there chilling. Yeah. My girl up in there chilling. What's up, high party in there chilling? Girl up in there chilling, dog. Oh, you man, you want to do this? What's going on? I know you got to go up in there, dog. My brother's pushing up on my shorty.
Give it up for D'Angelo. So what made the album Brown Sugar such a seismic jolt in the 1990s R&B landscape was many things, but one of the arguments you could make is its smoldering sensuality that was laced with these undercurrents of hip-hop's don't give a damnness, studious, devoted instrumentality, and this infectious commitment to the art of the infinite jam, which this intoxicating track, Lady, absolutely revels. So one more clip. Revels in.
I know I love you and you love me. Show I love you. I can tell the way.
So Lady is the sister, so to speak, to the title track of this audacious debut album, Brown Sugar. And so whereas the latter song, Want Some of Your Brown Sugar, introduced listeners to this playfully sly hood Romeo, gently on the make. Listen, Lady immerses us in the pleasures of a lover who's already won the chase and whose twinned passion for intimacy and privacy takes the form of this thick bass, heavy groove recitation. I'm tired of hiding what we feel. I'm trying to come with the real, and I'm going to make it known because I want them to know you're my lady. Behold the birth of neo-soul masculinity, an unabashed embrace of tenderness coupled with hip-hop manhood sensibilities, a recognition of your boys, the streets that you call home. He's unwilling to give up any part of himself and crafts a new generational sound that can encapsulate all of that. So last clip, please.
Gotta pack up here tonight, buddy.
Thank you. The final thing I would add about why I love Ladies so much, I love it like I love Higher, which is my other favorite track on Brown Sugar, which fuses Sunday morning modern gospel iridescence with light bedroom innuendo, is that both the song and its video are themselves reminders of what Fred Moden, our wonderful philosopher, might refer to as another order of an air shaft rent party. So this is Fred at length here. It could be called the house party, but don't let that mislead you into thinking that house implies ownership. This house party is of and for the dispossessed, the ones who disavow possession, the ones who, in having been possessed of the spirit of dispossession, disrupt themselves. They're preoccupied with disowning, with unowning, with homeless anti and anti-ownership. And this is their party because they're always trying to give it away like a bird in hand in hand, hand to hand, end quote. The video suggests to us that to be betrothed to one another in the language of Lady is to lay claim not only to your one, but to an entire community and the breakdown boogie of the vamp on the dance floor in somebody's apartment at 2 a.m. in the morning, where we're moving in and with and through each other in the open field we used to call everybody, as Fred puts it, populated by those abstract equivalences we call anybody, he adds. On the field, that ongoing giving of form that we call the informal, this is still Fred, refuge for the no ones, the not ones, the more plus less than ones, end quote. The rapturously quotidian intramural politics of our survival were fully on display in the work of a singular musician who was just getting started.
Daphne Brooks. Thank you for that beautiful start. So we're going to skip a couple years ahead to Voodoo. Start off with Spanish Joint, and then you'll take it.
Whenever it rains, feel this way. Little something to get me through this day. Give me a little bit. No time, man. Yeah, won't let me be good day. Yeah. Some people in need feel the breeze. Letting go when they're on my feet. Yeah, brushed up, man. No time, man. One, two, 1, 2. D'Angelo makes everybody feel like they can sing. You know, including me. I'll be behind him, you know, just wishing. Anyway, you know, very few artists can do what D'Angelo could do. Very few artists can make you feel how D'Angelo can make you feel. From word to musicianship, to just the idea of who he was, the vision that he had, the soul that he put into music, the soul that he put into his art. It was special to see, and I speak just from a place of admiration, but at a place of literally being right next to him, talking to him, and just seeing all of this happen.
I'm going to move around because it's such a thing. I can just talk about the idea of being in rehearsal with somebody like D'Angelo. When you get the call that rehearsal's at 10, but he says, I'm not coming, and then you get a call at 2 a.m. and says, okay, I'm ready. And from that, you see the most incredible artists on display. From the standpoint of playing, the standpoint of innovating, the standpoint of actually literally passing what he learned from the past to give to us in the present for us to take it to the future. D'Angelo was that artist. He was the person that you looked up to. I mean, he thought like a saxophone player. He actually started off on a saxophone, from the saxophone to the church, and from the church to the world. Just one of the most influential musicians of our time. You know, I've had the opportunity to play with Prince. I had the opportunity to play with D'Angelo. So to see both of them in action is just the most gifted thing that one could actually have. So, you know, that's special to me. You know, when I think of D'Angelo, the type of artist who could, you know, weave all worlds, who can cover a song like nobody else. He could cover a song and make you forget the original. Only D'Angelo could do that. And I'm talking about from, you know, from Roy Ayers' Everybody Loves the Sunshine to, you know, She's Always in My Hair, to Feel Like Making Love, which I didn't even know that was Roberta Flack's song. And until I played with Roberta Flack on the Grammys, which was honestly, you know. So, but D'Angelo can make you feel like that. And we go back to, you know, to Spanish Joint. Just the vibe and the energy of that song. You know, when we feel the bass, D'Angelo is all about the bass. You know, it's dry, it's direct, it's into your soul, it's into your core, and you must move. And if you don't, something's wrong with you. You know, and I'm saying from Africa, you know, to Cuba, to everywhere in between, D'Angelo made you move. Again, I seen it. You know, I toured with him with the Vanguard, so I seen people who looked nothing like me, to seeing people who couldn't speak the same language in Japan, see them all move in the same way, see them forget all their troubles and totally be engaged in what D'Angelo was doing. When I talk about Spanish Joint, I come to that song because it was one of the ones that, again, I personally, when I say I was a jazz purist, I really didn't even hear any lyrics until I started listening to D'Angelo, until I started listening to the Neo Soul crew. I guess this is around maybe 99, 2000. I was so caught up in my jazz world that when I heard Spanish Joint, I realized that my instrument, which, you know, we all need some kind of a way into the knowing, into the now, you know, hearing Roy Hargrove play over that, I said, okay, there is a world for me, which actually changed exactly who I am. For me, basically being, you know, the stunt double to play with all of those people that Roy played with, which was D'Angelo, which was Eric, and all of these people. All of these people really had, you know, my heart after that, after coming in touch with Voodoo, which I played. I probably bought that album maybe 6 times, 7 times at least. You know, played it over and over again in lots of different situations, if you know what I mean. So, you know, but Spanish Joint was the gateway drug to my D'Angelo fix. And ultimately, you know, the arrangement was incredible. The musicianship, incredible. Again, I had the opportunity to play with D'Angelo. So we'll go to the next clip. And this is a show that we did at the legendary North Sea Jazz Festival. And it was a special time. You know, 2015, special year, D'Angelo and the Vanguard. And I mean, before we go into it, it's like, could you imagine waiting on an album from 2000, what it was 2001? 2000 to 2014? Literally. I mean, I was at the time, and I'm just giving you contextual things. Daphne gave you so much stuff. I'm going from a different way. You know, I was playing with Maxwell at the time. And, you know, I did all the horn work on Black Summer's Night and all of that. So, again, I'm totally influenced by the idea of production of what D'Angelo did. So anyway, we were on tour, and D'Angelo dropped Black Messiah. So it was just like, damn, when will I have an opportunity to work with D? And I finally got it. So here it is, Spanish joint. That was fun. Yeah, that was fun. Again, it's like playing with an artist, you know, like D'Angelo, and being in that close approximation from the good, the bad, and the ugly parts is just one of the most visceral experiences that you get a chance to take in and learn from. I mean, as an artist, as a composer, you know, to see what it's like is just, under the hood, is just really, really special. I have to say that.
And like that trumpet part.
Oh, man.
Man, come on.
I'm doing my best, doing my best.
So we're gonna skip ahead to Black Messiah.
Okay.
Start with Really Love, and Keyon will continue here.
Yeah, this drone is uncanny, it's unbelievable. Just listening to it, the strings, the arrangement, purely cinematic. And the words under. Pose a question. Me amas si, me amas? Which means, do you love me? Yes, do you love me? And what's crazy is, I don't know how D'Angelo found that sample, but he was able to, you know, be great and create a composition that answers that question under the most cool, most sexy, most vibey way. The way those drums lay back, the way the horns come in, the way the strings just melt over the track is nothing short of amazing. Cinematic. This is beautiful. Shout out to Questlove. Shout out to Pino Palladino, Isaiah Sharkey, Russell Votto, all of the incredible musicians who made this a reality. Ben Kane. And how often now can you listen to a song with an intro? We got to get right to it. No foreplay, you know. Absolutely. Yeah, Pino walked that bass, and the bass is so dry, so perfect, so up in your face that you gotta feel it right here in your chest. A king of composition, a master and manipulator of his voice. From his unique, identifiable melodies, his riffs are truly unique and game-changing. The layering of incredible timbres. This guy solidified his incredible legacy in only 3 albums. Who can say that? Only one D'Angelo. Tone is everything. From the sounds of the guitars, it's always nostalgic. I mean, you can hear the sounds of Motown, you can hear the sounds of the Delphonics, you can hear the sounds of Sam Cooke, you can hear the sounds of Prince, and everything that he did. And like Miles Davis, his use of space was prime and paramount. There are no extra notes. There's no rambling. Just pure effect and pure intention. Always a melody that you can sing, that you can hold on to, truly. And that's why I love it. This is really love. D'Angelo.
Beautiful.
Come on.
Stick with this album and move on to a live recording of the charade. First, give it up for Keyon.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Particularly in the days following his passing, I often got asked, we all got asked, what's your favorite D'Angelo track? Didn't have to think about it. It will always be the charade off Black Messiah. And that album's gut punch of a track, in my opinion. And here he is on SNL, a show, by the way, that couldn't even bother to run an in memoriam place card for him the weekend after he passed last fall. Send the letter to Lorne Michaels. Well, you know, track. Number 3 on D'Angelo's BLM-driven masterpiece, Black Messiah. Cryptic to some, the charade for me is alive with nostalgic arrangement and suggestive lyrics evocative of the weariness of our mid-2010s freedom struggle moment. It was an anthem set to a minor key, an anthem figurative, an anthem set to the key of exhaustion, yet potent and cutting in its critique of the long array of post-civil rights injustices buried at the bottom of the nation's subconscious. So D'Angelo lets us know here on the charade that the charade is over. The jig is up, as this particular moment of 21st century reckoning held fast to grassroots resistance principles steeped in a recognition of grief and insistence on holding anti-Black violence and corruption accountable for the devastations it hath wrought. And he calls on a B-side, in my opinion, by his idol to sound the alarm. So listen closely to this track's contours and influences. My ears hear many layers of sonic memory, echoes, for instance, of Prince's ostensibly unrelated "How Come You Don't Call Me Anymore" from 1982, a dirge that conjures the image of a crestfallen Prince bent over his piano, composing into the early hours of the morning. Okay, sorry to cut off Prince.
Why you stop that?
No, I hate the player. Both songs, in my opinion, share surprisingly comparable vibes. That aforementioned exhaustion and weariness crossed with longing and a little bit of hope. The late, great Prince, who left us 10 years ago as of next week, lets us know on this track that he's lost all sorts of sleep keeping this visual for you, wishing, waiting, hoping that you'll spend one lousy dime to ring him. And it's one of those beautiful, super sexy, captivating, up-close and personal ballads, which she was, of course, known for. And it's also a song that's perched between expectancy and the onset of calamity, feverish hope, and clear-eyed disappointment. So he's giving his usual kind of trademark visceral intimacy in this tale of personal longing, and he offers bedroom protest here, which would seemingly have nothing to do with the kind of dissent that Dee and his Vanguard dropped on us in December of 2014. So back to the charade.
Once again, D'Angelo.
So the charade telescopes the energy of amorous despair that our Purple One belted out in the post-LA uprising era and drops it into a song that's in part about age-old, chronically fraught and frayed interracial, social, and political intimacies. All we wanted was a chance to talk, he sings here. Dressed for the front lines. They hit their grave limit, D'Angelo and the Vanguard, as the we and the us crawl as he sings through a systematic maze to demise. With degradation so loud, D'Angelo tells us that you can't hear the sound of our cries. Collective injury conjoins with what the feminist critic Sarah Marcus might call political disappointment. The political feeling attached to, as she calls it, the non-arrival of the expected or desired object in question, disappointment. The longing to talk, like that phone call our Minnesotan insists on, is that which goes unfulfilled on the charade. It's a yearning for what never comes. But the results in this particular ballad of estrangement manifest themselves, we know, on the most horrific scale, in the form of an endless parade of bodies outlined in chalk, as Dee sings. We've walked, we've marched 1,000,000 miles, he reminds us, with bloody feet, aching bones, marching from one generation's strategies of resistance to the next. What's revealed at the end of the day is the charade, the lies of a Gen X millennial lifetime's worth of legislated racial equality, rife with quotidian racial terror and state surveillance and repression. So when I listen to the charade, it brings to mind what I've always referred to as its kissing cousin, another track that provoked listeners to question false promises, false proclamations of racial progress. And that would be this track.
Are we really happy here with this lonely game we play? Looking for words to say, searching but not finding understanding anywhere. We're lost in a masquerade.
Do you hear it, right? George Benson's 1976 cover of white country soul legend Leon Russell, A Song for You, shout out to Donnie, right? Leon Russell's This Masquerade. George Benson covers it. It's on KSOL in my San Francisco Bay Area Black radio world every single day in my childhood. Benson is that jazz guitarist turned icon of mid-1970s Quiet Storm radio. He creates this Grammy-winning smash. It's the soundtrack to countless backyard barbecues of my elementary school years. That in its heyday, and as I think back on it now, it seemingly captured this kind of collective experience of Southern Black migrants, the world of my late parents, educators, as I mentioned earlier, who'd escaped the insult of Jim Crow for greener pastures, seemingly University of California, Berkeley degrees, a modest domicile in what we later call Silicon Valley. The dream of entering an American citizenry denied them in their Texas and Arkansas youths. But this was the season of Boston school busing, public sphere mayhem in '74, and the juridical momentum of the Regents of University of California versus Bakke case, which originated in California that same year and would eventually reach the not Motown Supremes. Their 1978 decision would, of course, begin the questioning and eventual evisceration of racial diversity in the California educational system. This was, as we've said before, the season of Roots, of those bicentennial celebrations that I can't get off of my mind right now as history continues to repeat itself. The season of prior stand-up and Ishmael Reed fiction that pushed back against historical amnesia. So in that season, George Benson gave us this protest song for the morning and the morning after the movement era. It turned Russell's tale of yet another relationship at its end into a record of post-soul estrangement and cold, hard truths about the failure of progress, the failure to affirm Black personhood, Black citizenry, Black subjectivity in America, the failure to build interracial trust. Are we really happy here with this lonely game we play? Asked Brother George, looking for words to say, searching but not finding, understanding anyway. We're lost in a masquerade. So here too, as in D'Angelo's jam, communication is futile. We tried to talk it over, but the words got in the way. George sings, we're lost inside this lonely game we play. And so back to D'Angelo finally, one more time.
Once again, D'Angelo.
No, J.K. Simmons, right? I'm gonna bring it down a little bit. So think of Benson's cover of this masquerade, sped up here and drenched in political fire, soaked in Prince and Hendrix and Sly Stone sonic references. The charade rips the Band-Aid off and thrives on second-person questioning, you, witnessing and confrontation, degradation, D'Angelo sings, so loud that you can't hear the sound of our cries. With the murder of Michael Brown and countless others fresh in our minds and in our hearts, 2014 D'Angelo returned to the scene of the crime to call it like he saw it. It's a tornado of a song whose live rendition on SNL rocked the foundations of late-night TV, offering the fierce musical antidote to anti-Blackness.
How do we follow that?
How do we follow that?
Epic.
We go back to Voodoo for our last tune, for a song that does not need an introduction.
See, D on this is now a sex symbol.
Yes.
So he's gotten out of the idea of just being everybody's favorite musician. He's crossed over to the commercial realm when this dropped.
He has, but he's also pushed the question of what it means to be commercial. I mean, this is, a breaking of space, a kind of complex meditation on sensuality. It's got undercurrents of, I would argue, gynocentrism.
Absolutely.
as its kind of core ethos, as in I'm focusing on the pleasure of my one. And so that kind of female gaze that's so often marginalized, erased from having any kind of value is revalued through this track. I think, yeah.
Oh, I'm sure you're right.
I mean,
Yeah, this was viral before the idea of viral ever even existed.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to know, what was he actually saying?
yeah.
Did he actually, what? Between what? What was that? His murmurs, sometimes you couldn't really hear it the first couple times.
Yes.
But then when you really got to it,
Yes.
you knew what the vibe was. Again, I played this track
You
lots
had to do
of
it
times.
a few times, though. You had to do it a few times to get it right. Yeah.
Got a rowdy crowd here.
Gotta be patient.
Yeah. This is an education on love. We need that sometimes.
It's true.
Come on now. There's a lot of music out here
Damn, right?
that don't give you the feeling. We need the feeling sometimes, especially going against what's happening in the world. We need some peace. This is peace.
It is peace. And it's interesting to pair it with the charade in the era of I Can't Breathe resistance, to think about how much air and space there is, as you reminded us earlier in his work, that allows us to breathe, allows us to take each other in, allows us to recenter ourselves in our fullness, our engagement with our own desires, to really build a kind of entire world of intimacy and pleasure, even as we always have to do it in public spaces, or Neil Hurston reminded us of the absence of privacy in Black folks' lives. But this is a kind of, radical reclamation of privacy that is also quite joyful and delicate. The preciousness of our sensuality,
It's okay to be Black and beautiful.
That's right. And to be in love with ourselves, in love with our bodies, in love with another's body, and to just really to revel in it, right? Yeah, it's sumptuous, it's luxurious, It's a reminder of everything Audre Lorde has taught us about the uses of the erotic, what it means to center the erotic as life-giving, Yeah.
How does it feel?
How does it feel? No? Can I just, unless you don't want.
We've got about 5 minutes for a Q&A, and then we'll continue the conversation out during a little reception. If anyone has a question, there's some microphones. 10 minutes? We got 10 minutes, after all. Microphones here on the side if you want to come down and ask a question.
Look at that T-shirt. Yes.
Good evening. My name is Chris. I write about migration and music. If a documentary was to be produced on D'Angelo, what would you most like to see reflecting his life? And how much control would you want his estate to have on it? And I bring that up because of the recent controversy about Prince's documentary.
I personally would love to see lots of D'Angelo in the creative space, outside of everything that could possibly be negative about his life. I would love to see him work and love to see him writing, creating, singing, and that being recorded, to see the process before everybody else got a chance to really witness it. I mean, there is another documentary out, and it's interesting. I was there, I was in it, and it's not something. Let me cut this from the record, but it was a lot of stuff going on controversially, and I would love to see D'Angelo be D'Angelo. That's like the most special, sacred thing.
I mean, the rehearsal space, to just build on what you were saying and what you alluded to, being in that rehearsal space, I mean, it's legendary to those of us who are fans. And, in many ways, it's kind of the pedagogy of understanding something so powerful about Black music history and the ways in which we collaborate and improvise and build off of one another and do that in the round. So that would be a real gift to be able to see that.
The video that next to last, the one where we're not sure what he's saying and nobody really cares what he's saying.
How does it feel?
Oh, is that what he's saying?
Untitled.
Well, okay. So who directed that video?
Untitled.
Paul Hunter.
Paul Hunter.
Paul Hunter. Okay. And I wonder who directed most of his videos. Was it the same person or was it? different
I don't think so. I'm not sure.
I don't think so. There are any.
No, it was just shot really great. I like it.
Oh yeah.
One of the greatest videos.
Oh,
of
that
all
one
time.
changed the game. Really.
I'm just wondering if anybody can talk a little bit about the complexities of him being a PK. I remember years after he did the Untitled video, him talking about how that affected him mentally, much deeper than anybody really knew. So,
I mean, I'm personally a PK, so I get, you know, the idea of should I do this or should I not? Should I be 100% honest or should I respect what I've been taught? Should I put this what I got in my gut on the road or should I just chill? You know, but obviously I'm thankful that he chose to put his heart out on the, you know, proverbial highway for us to really take in and grow from as artists. He was 100% honest, 100% brave, which is not easy because, again, when you have that stigmatism on your life that, okay, you must live like this, you must speak like this, you can only sing here. Should you sing there? Should you sing those lyrics? Should those yearnings that you feel actually be output, you know? And to see D say, you know what? It might take me, 15 years to put out this next album, but I'm gonna say what I have to say is pretty incredible to me. You know, that's from my perspective, and I can only speak on that. So,
I mean, I can't speak on that. I appreciate you sharing that. I just felt a great sadness when the video was so fetishized, which sounds ironic since one would argue that the video is inviting that kind of fetishization. But if you're a black feminist and you think about what the narrative of the song is suggesting about being able to create intimacy with your, cisgendered female lover, it's a real statement about desire for black women, right? And so it felt like there was a way that shifted over into exploitation, which we always are vulnerable to in the pop music marketplace. But I'd love for us to be able to have conversations about what else is happening in this video that's incredibly powerful. So yeah, thank you for that question.
I continue to be struck by the way Black Messiah seems to frame listening itself as both an ethical and political act. In Ain't That Easy, the sound feels deliberately roughened or obscure. I remember buying it for the first time and thinking my record player was broken, while Another Life closes the album through a much more vulnerable and suspended register of intimacy. I was just wondering how you both hear D'Angelo using sonic texture as across the album to shape a particular kind of intimacy and whether that intimacy is part of the album's broader political vision.
I mean, I really appreciate that question because I do think some of the most astonishing experimentalism on that record comes through its kind of, sonic refusals, that's refusal to engage in a kind of easy listening, easy palatability, a kind of, as you were suggesting, kind of, auditory experience that for 3/4 of it, and especially the first 3 songs, is you could almost call it rough listening. It's like you're being, it's the experience of being overcome by something, right? And it's beautiful that you've mapped out that arc to kind of land somewhere at the end of the record that is, if not peace, a form of quietude, a form of black rest. So I do think it's absolutely a part of the political statement of the album. And it's a time capsule. I mean, really listening to it now, don't you feel like it's taking us back to this place that was just 10 years ago, but of course feels centuries ago now because of where we're at right now. and is kind of giving us an aesthetic statement of being unsettled. And in that sense, it gives me a lot of hope to go back to it, to try to be unsettled again, to be awake, to be uncomfortable, to be alive to possibility, to be right in the middle of something that is this unfinished project, as we like to call it. So thank you for that question.
And sonically, you know, it was just an incredible work of art, again, from Russell Votto, and so many other people that really were able to translate what D'Angelo was feeling into sonic bliss, into sonic reality, which is not the easiest thing. There's a lot of stuff going on. If you listen back, I was listening to it today, just in headphones. Obviously, I'm listening to it on a record player, and just different experiences. It's just like it takes you different places, man. The reversals, the delays, the reverbs, just everything really, really just opens you up to an emotional cacophony. So
Yes, emotional cacophony, and the density of his work, that heaviness is a statement about Blackness and about this history that we carry with us, but also, who we are, because of the density of that history, yeah.
We've got time for one more. Miguel Bird, bring us home.
Thank you, Mo. This has been lovely for me. Like, this has been everything for me. But my question is, speaking to the last song on Voodoo, Africa, where do you situate Africa and D'Angelo's consciousness and his legacy in terms of how he's using how he's using these sounds that Africans developed in the Western Hemisphere to reach back to this Pan-African sensibility? Again, not just lamenting on a condition, but also speaking to that life-giving sociality you were talking about earlier in terms of who Africans are to each other.
Thank you for that question.
Yeah.
Thank y'all.
Yeah, no. No, I mean, I feel, when I was listening to it again, while I was doing the piece for The Guardian about his music, I just started contextualizing that song generationally again as part of this moment of Gen X musicians thinking about diaspora in relation to parenting, since it is a song that he famously, wrote for his son and Angie Stone's son. Moment of silence for the incredible Angie Stone. My God. So I just started thinking about, Lawrence to Zion and Jance's Black is King project, but this kind of way in which you're trying to get your arms around a tradition of diasporic memory that translates into a sense of responsibility as a Black parent. And that's how that song kind of stays with me, how personal it was for him, but how he's reminding us of the Black feminist principle, the personal is political, it's also historical, how to encapsulate all of that in that track.
she said it.
He sang it.
Again, but I think, after that, one of the most, compelling things and one of the most important things is, we think of Africa and we think about how we got our stories and how we got everything we know. It was through the music. Yes. It was through the drums. It was through us passing and through the griot. So that song, Africa is everything. Africa is my descent. Where y'all at? Love it. Yeah.
Hey. Thank you all for coming. Daphne Brooks, Keyon Harrold, D'Angelo, all of you.
D, we love you.
Join us outside for a reception. We'll hang.